Once upon a time, wrestling had become a monopoly. The Monday Night Wars ended, and when the dust settled, variety was the biggest victim. But in the wake of this, there were those who wanted to do something about it. And hence, from the ashes of Extreme Championship Wrestling, a new honor would rise. Even though Ring of Honor is not all that old, it still manages to have a fascinating history. But to do it justice, we need to do a bit of time hopping. So let's travel back to 2001. No, not the Space Odyssey movie, I meant the year 2001. Alright, there we go. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot. This is what I looked like when I was 19.
Yeah, seriously, you were such a tool when you were a kid.
Oh, please, he's a tool now.
Already this isn't going as planned. But anyway, wrestling was entering an interesting phase during this time. WCW would be acquired by Vince McMahon in March, and ECW would close its doors the following month. While ECW may not have been fiscally on WCW or WWF's level, its loss would definitely leave quite a serious void. And the party that felt that void the most might have been a company called RF Video. ECW was RF's biggest seller, and without them, their profits would suffer a lot. So, what to do about this? Well, as it turned out, while RF was just a distributor for ECW, they had also been filming other smaller indie promotions. And after attempts to work out a deal with Combat Zone Wrestling failed to happen, RF came up with an idea. They figured that if they couldn't partner up with another wrestling promotion, then why not just make their own? And just like that, the beginning of Ring of Honor was born. Two of the biggest names responsible for the creation of ROH are Rob Feinstein, who was the private owner of the company, and Gabe Sapolsky, who started out as an employee of Eastern Championship Wrestling and then became Paul Heyman's protege and then began working with RF Video after ECW folded. Ring of Honor's first event was called The Era of Honor Begins, and it was held on February 23, 2002 in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, ECW's home city. The event featured a triple threat match between three men who would become known as Ring of Honor's founding fathers: Low-Ki, Christopher Daniels, and Bryan Danielson, better known to WWE audiences as Daniel Bryan. And it was not uncommon for ROH to work out talent sharing agreements with other promotions. That is, until an incident occurred. Now, Ring of Honor used to be privately owned by its previously mentioned creator, Rob Feinstein, but he was caught in an internet sting operation trying to solicit some less than honorable activity. Once the media got wind of the situation, Feinstein resigned from Ring of Honor. Now, as a result of this, TNA immediately stopped their talent sharing agreement with ROH. This was a problem because this included wrestlers that either had or were going to have ROH Gold and were big draws for upcoming shows. Now, this could have been detrimental to the brand, but alas, Ring of Honor would definitely prevail. How? Well, enter Doug Gentry, the man who bought up Feinstein's stake in the company, only to sell it to a man named Cary Silkin. And Silkin is the man that really got the ball rolling on what began ROH's new direction and kept the company from going under. It was from this point that Ring of Honor began a mail order service, in addition to having an online store. This is where fans could buy DVDs of wrestling shows and shoot interviews dubbed the Straight Shootin' Series. Not only that, but this is what got the promotion to be distributed worldwide. From there, it was Japan that really got into Ring of Honor. In the beginning of 2007, Ring of Honor would begin their Japanese tour, partnering with promotions like Pro Wrestling Noah and Dragon Gate. And it was around this time that Ring of Honor also became the first American wrestling promotion to have all of its titles held by non-American wrestlers. And adding to their growth, by this time TNA would also re-enter their talent sharing agreement with Ring of Honor, but would then pull their talent sharing again once Ring of Honor began a new pay-per-view deal. Ring of Honor's first pay-per-view was called Respect is Earned, and it was filmed on May 12, 2007 from the Manhattan Center in New York, New York, and it aired on pay-per-view on July 1st of that year. The main event was a tag team bout which featured Takeshi Morishima and Bryan Danielson going against the team of Nigel McGuinness and Kenta, who is now known as Hideo Itami. And as Ring of Honor World Champion, Morishima was also featured earlier on in the night when he defeated BJ Whitmer in a quick title bout. Ring of Honor continued to grow and expand their reach to new areas as the company grew in popularity. But then, after being with the promotion since inception, Booker and co-creator Gabe Sapolsky left Ring of Honor. He was replaced by Adam Pearce, who would later be fired for having a difference of ideology. Pearce would then be replaced by wrestler Delirious, aka Hunter Johnston, who remains as a Ring of Honor Booker as of this recording. Okay, now going back to the Progress department. In January of 2009, Ring of Honor announced that they would have a TV deal, having reached an agreement with HD Net Fights. And where did their first TV tapings take place? Where else but the old ECW Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, around a year into their TV deal, and Ring of Honor would announce their brand new World Television Championship. An 8-man tournament was held to determine the first champion, which was won by Eddie Edwards. Then after their 2-year TV deal expired, Ring of Honor ended their programming with HD Net Fights. But then, the promotion would be bought by the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Kerry Silkin remained on board as an executive, and Ring of Honor began airing on several Sinclair-owned or operated stations. Okay, so now that everything is said and done, we have to talk about several unique aspects of Ring of Honor that make it just so great. The first, of course, is the Code of Honor. The Code of Honor is an understood act that is meant to promote sportsmanship, respect, and honor in the wrestling ring. Now, the exact rules to this code have changed over the years, but it has mostly remained in one form or another. The original code consisted of 5 rules. You must shake hands before and after every match, no outside interference, no sneak attacks, no harming officials, and any action resulting in a disqualification violates the Code of Honor. The code was first implemented for 2 reasons. First, presenting official laws of ethics gave Ring of Honor a more Japanese wrestling vibe, and also having simple rules that were made a big deal out of was a great way to get heels over. Like the plot device of Kick the Dog in movies, having a wrestler refuse to do something as simple as shaking hands right in the beginning of a match was a great way to instantaneously let fans know that this wrestler was a heel. And having instantly recognizable definition is a great way to get new fans who aren't familiar with your product to understand what's going on. Now eventually the code began to fade, but then it would come back in a more simplified form after Gabe Sapolsky felt that the gimmick had run its course. The new code was simply shake hands before and after every match, keep the playing field level, and respect the officials. Today, the Code of Honor's first and most important law is still the handshake rule. After that, the code states official time limits for matches. 60 minutes for a world title match, 45 minutes for a tag team match, and 15 minutes for a television title bout. And also, there are the official rule violations for matches, such as biting, eye gouging, and choking, for example. As well as how contests are decided, pinfall, submission, knockouts, stuff like that. And finally, another interesting aspect of Ring of Honor is how championship contenders are determined. This too has changed over the years. Originally, there were no guidelines, but when champion Xavier refused to defend, a top 5 ranking system was employed. Now, it was originally based off of win-loss records, but when the code was revamped, so too was the contendership rankings. Instead of the top 5, contenders were chosen by officials submitting rankings for what was known as Contenders Rank. Wrestlers appearing in 75% or more of the bouts were eligible for a shot at a championship. Then, this too went away. Instead, wrestlers would have to submit themselves for evaluation by officials who would then determine if they were worthy. Then, once Jim Cornette became Ring of Honor commissioner, the top 5 system returned yet again, ranking wrestlers based off of performance, particularly in the previous month. It was then later dropped to allow for outside wrestlers to get title shots even if they came from other promotions and were not available to be judged on their last month. Then Cornette returned again, and again a ranking system would be used, but this time it would be the Pick 6. These 6 wrestlers were the only wrestlers allowed to contend for title shots, and the higher you ranked in the Pick 6, the more leverage you had when it came to determining when your title shot would happen. And the only way to become part of the Pick 6 was to defeat a wrestler in the Pick 6 ranking. You would then take that wrestler's place, and he, along with everyone below him, would drop down 1 spot. Today, contendership is determined by the Proving Ground system. Anyone can earn a chance at a championship. All you have to do is just defeat a reigning champion in a non-title bout, and then you get a match for their championship. And speaking of championships, Ring of Honor has held some great gold. Not only do they have the previously mentioned World Television and Tag Team Championships, but they also have a 6-man tag team title as well. And they're about to finally crown their very first women's champion ever. Also, a retired title, the Ring of Honor Pure Championship was a belt that was created to be more fitting and more in line with Ring of Honor's more honorable sense of morality. The belt was made to more embody pure pure wrestling with 3 additional rules. First, wrestlers would have 3 rope breaks to stop a submission or pinfall. After that, all move attempts under the ropes were illegal. Second, there are no closed fist punches to the face allowed. The first closed fist punch to your opponent's face results in a warning. After that, you are docked 1 rope break. Third, a wrestler is subject to a 20 count if the wrestler goes to the floor. And unlike most titles, the Pure Championship can change hands on a DQ or a countout. Okay, there you go. Just a little bit of an overview of Ring of Honor. Now that that's all done, it's time to go back to the present. Whoa, much better. Sure, not as good as the 80s or the 90s, but it's still good to be back all the same. Anyway, what are your favorite aspects of Ring of Honor? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and this has been Dave Knows.